Hello, Aunty Wendy. Mahalo for being here on the Cool Project podcast. It's been an honor just being here at the Four Seasons Maui and just kind of seeing the area and feeling the breeze, especially in the Wailea area. So before we go into this conversation, can you just kind of share who you are, where you're from, and so forth?
Yeah, so aloha, I'm Aunty Wendy, but I'm Aunty Wendy here at the Four Seasons.
Okay.
I'm actually, I'm also known as AKA Aunty Mopsy or Mopsy with the IE. And that's a childhood name.
Yeah.
My Hawaiian name is Mapuana. So how they got Mopsy from Mapuana, I don't know. I'm actually born and raised on the island of Oahu.
Oahu. Okay.
And I used to say I was a transplant to Maui until my years here in Maui overtook my years on Oahu. And so now I do call Maui home.
What part of Oahu are you from?
I'm actually born and raised, grew up in Palama, which is town side. And then when I got into high school, we lived in Ewa Beach.
Okay.
But I did go to Kamehameha, so I had to catch that bus. There was no bus system, so I had to catch that city bus to Waipahu and then wait for the bus to come from Nanakuli, Makakilo, pick us up in Waipahu and then take us to school. After high school, my family moved to Mililani, and so they still reside there.
Oh, yeah. So I'm from Kailua side of Oahu. So born and raised, and I actually went to Iolani High School.
Nice.
But same thing, like being on the opposite side of the island, we had to catch the bus some days, go 6 o'clock in the morning, get over to the other side of the island. But, I remember hearing that you were raised very connected to the Hawaiian culture, right, as a young child. Like, what was that like? Like,
well, it's so funny because when I look back, it was all there.
Yeah.
But you don't realize it till you become an adult. And then you look back, because I think I was kind of resistant as a child. I grew up the youngest of 7.
Oh, wow.
The boys were above me, and there's 4 girls and 3 boys. And so the 2 boys were above me. And so I wanted to hang out with them. I wanted to go to the beach because, when we lived in Ewa Beach, you had habush. So everybody, the thing was going to the beach, go surfing and everything. And it was my mom who said, no, you're the youngest girl now, the young one. And you're going to go to hula and you're going to do these other things. And I was quite resistant. And as an adult, I said, oh my gosh, it was all there. And thank goodness my mom kept pushing. Now, I come from a father who's Hawaiian Portuguese. And then my mom is pure Chinese.
Okay.
And I still remember being called, chop suey, because we were like all mixed and everything. But I think my mom being pure Chinese, when I reflect back, she was the one who instilled all of this.
Wow.
Back in her time, it was her family being traditional Chinese, where my grandmother was what would you call it? She was the one that had to be married to somebody.
Okay.
It was an arranged marriage. So my popo, my grandmother, comes from an arranged marriage. So very traditional.
Yeah.
And my mother broke the mold by saying, oh no, I'm going to marry this nice looking Hawaiian man. And her family in the beginning just kind of like disowned her. And so she came over to, my father's side, and she just immersed herself into the culture itself. So my mom, being pure Chinese, this short little Chinese lady, can dance hula. She can weave. I remember seeing hala baskets and stuff, and I don't know where it came from. But then I found out later my mom made them. And I'm like, what? Mom did this? And my sister's like, yeah, of course mom did all of this. And, going to Kamehameha back in the 70s, that's when, football was a big deal, because I think we had the championship football team, and all I wanted to do was go to the football games and to the parties after, right? Because you got Waikiki. Thank goodness for my mom, who instilled a lot of these things in me within the Hawaiian culture. I always say it starts from the home. And with my dad, it was always about having that umeke on the table with the poi, covered with the cheesecloth. And none of us kids could touch it. Only my mom could touch it, and she would just add to it. She never washed it. I just remember her adding to it, and I would look at her like, oh, I don't think so. You don't touch it anyway. That's dad's. But then she would always make us fresh poi. And my mom could cook Hawaiian food like nobody's business. To this day, I don't think I've tasted some people who make squid luau. That's kind of close to hers. But yeah, her squid luau, amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
Thinking about those times, are there any like Hawaiian values that kind of sticks out to you as a child that they kind of instilled upon you, and like some of the stories that you could share on those values?
Oh, big time. it was always about Ohana. And I think it was because of my mom and dad's situation. And my dad grew up in a time where you couldn't speak the language. You could only speak it behind closed doors. There were so many restrictions. And they just grew up not having a lot.
Yeah.
So what was the most important thing was Ohana, taking care of one another, knowing that when you went to auntie or uncle's house, there was always going to be food there.
Yeah.
It was always someone that's going to take care of. So for us, always making sure that we grew up taking care of one another, respecting our elders. It was so important because everybody was auntie or uncle. When I was younger and I looked up and I always thought, oh, they're so old. They were like maybe in their 30s or 40s. Oh, they're so old.
Yeah.
And one day we calling them auntie and uncle. And then I got into my 30s and 40s and I was like, they're calling me auntie now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no. I still feel young, not that old. But now that I'm in my 60s, I'm going to be 62 years old. I'm embracing it.
Yeah.
I get that 10% off at Ross's and all these things. But it was always instilled that you always respect your elders. It's always about respect, and you always take care of your ohana. Growing up, it was if we were at a friend's house and it was there and they were eating, you ate. And if my friends were at our home and mom was pauku, everybody came to the table. You fed everybody who came to the door. It was never, okay, you go home now because it's time for dinner. Everyone took care of each other. And in the neighborhood, it wasn't related aunties and uncles. It was always that extended ohana, but you had that respect, and all the kids got taken care of, no matter whose home it was from. I don't think the doors were ever locked or closed. They always had that screen door. Right? The screen door was open and closed. But it was never locked. And I think the only time the actual main door got closed is if it got cold. But friends came over, hooey, and you look outside, oh, come inside. Yeah. Everybody was, it was just ohana, family.
Yeah, it reminds me so much of my ohana too, because that's how we were raised too. Just allowing people to come to the house, and when they come in, like, you're part of ohana already. Yeah. And when you go to other places too, right? It's like you're part of that ohana, so you make sure you behave appropriately.
Yes.
Help out when it's need help. Clean up your food. Ask, offer to wash the dishes and everything. That's kind of how I was raised too in my ohana. My parents were really strong at that because that was instilled upon them from their parents too. It's like, whenever you go anywhere, you got to make sure you leave it a better, right?
Yes.
And not only the places, but the people as well, right?
Yes.
Like, because you want to make sure that it's like the whole transfer of mana, right? We always talk about, right? And instilling that mana onto people and making sure that you leave an impression on them. Helping them stand a little bit taller. Like at the Cool Project, that's what we always think about. It's cool. Like, how can we stand a little bit taller each day? What do we need to do? And that's kind of what I strive to do. And learning from people like yourself, like, okay, what makes her stand out? Because you have this aura about you. I'm sure when you walk around the premise around here, people kind of see Aunty Wendy, like, oh, there's Aunty Wendy. Out of all the culture stuff, would you say that hula was something that you gravitated towards the most in?
No, when I was younger.
No?
That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was always there. Like, I did it because my mom wanted to do it. I don't think I got that full understanding of what hula was until I came to Maui.
Oh, wow.
Maui is a big mecca for hula, for the Hawaiian culture. And I'm so fortunate. Like I said, I didn't know that I was ever going to come to Maui. I didn't know. My husband was, he's in construction. And so he had told me, he goes, I have a chance to go to Maui to go work. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, well, I don't know, because, Maui is kind of slow. And, I thought I was the city girl, because you got to figure, this is back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And, disco was a big thing down in Waikiki. And you had all these nightclubs that opened till 4 o'clock in the morning. And Maui didn't have none of that. So I told her, I said, well, I don't know. And we weren't married. So I said, I'll come with. But if I don't like it, I just want to let you know. Yeah, just letting you know. And he said, okay, babe, that's fine. Well, that was 34 years ago. And we've been married for 33. And that's why we consider Maui home.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why we consider Maui home was because of the Hawaiian culture. Like, my husband's from Samoa, from Western Samoa. And he lives very culturally. And he was the one who kept telling me, he goes, when somebody, this is your home, and you need to know more. Yeah. And I think as an adult is when it kicked in to go like, wow, I went to Kamehameha. I had all of these things that was afforded to me for free through school. And I didn't take advantage of it as much as I should have. But now being here on Maui, the resources here are amazing.
Yeah.
So much good kumu, so much good people here that was willing to share. Yeah. And for me, I said, okay, you know what? This is it. And I sponged it all. I learned, and whenever I had an opportunity to ask the questions, and I did. And so, one of my first kumu was Luana Kava'a, and I was with her for 17 years. Wow. Through kumu Luana, I have met so many different kumu as well. Aunty Hoku is another big resource here on Maui. We call her, she's the queen of hula.
Yeah.
And then now I've been with Kumu Kamaka Kukona for 9 years.
Wow.
And I've actually had an opportunity to ho'opa'a for him and I uniki this past August.
Oh, awesome.
So for me, Kumu Kamaka, all of our kumu, so much ike, but through them, I've been introduced to the other side of hula as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just the dancing, it's the studying, it's the researching, it's living it.
Yeah.
And so when we say hula is life, hula really is life. But I'm so fortunate that I've had that opportunity to meet so many good people and so many good kumu here on Maui, all the kumus. This is one thing that I love is because all the kumus get along.
Yeah.
Kumu Pu'eo, Kumu Iliahi, and Haunani Paredes, Kumu Uluvehi Guerrero, Kumu Ke. I mean, all of these Kumu Napua, they're all good friends. Everybody's friends with one another. And it's wonderful because we see that and we learn from all of their examples. And so Maui really has been such a big learning experience for me.
Awesome. As you remind me, growing up when I was a kid, I was just kind of the same way. I was kind of hesitant with the cultural part. My mom taught hula to the people in the area, like Aunty, I'm drawing name of Kamalama Lama family Ohana out there and everything. But I remember she was teaching me hula, and I still remember my first hula was Boy from Lapo Hoi Hoi from Aunty Garluli, and I remember having to dance it for her because she was living in Kailua at that time, and that was like a big time responsibility. But then that was a moment where my parents, my mom especially, really instilled that idea that culture is very important, not just to you, but to people who see you practicing this culture. Like you set that example not only for the peers around you, but you kind of let the kupuna who are, ahead of you feel good about what they're leaving behind, And that's kind of, but then I came to that point where, we all go through these identity times as a high school kid and everything. I got more into sports, and I kind of distanced myself from the culture a bit, especially when I moved away to the mainland, to the continent, because I had to go to school and college. And I was one of those points where I was arguing with my parents because I didn't want to leave the island. But my parents were like, no, you need to go. Like, you need to get away, experience some stuff, because that's what we're always taught. Like, experience, learn as much as you can, but come back home.
But wasn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
Because it's like our parents knew better.
Yeah, they did.
But at the time, we don't think so, right? And then it's so funny because I look back now and I was like, oh God, I used to be so resistant.
Yeah.
And I gave them so much flack. But I look back now and I wish my mom was alive, because if she could see me what I'm doing now, she'd be so proud.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so important for people who are in that cultural area or who are interested in becoming more connected to their culture or learning about the culture, is to see the bigger picture of the impact that it can have on you in a positive way.
Yeah. Because I never knew that this was, it was so funny because I used to work, I've been in the hospitality industry now for over 30 years, working my way up in different departments, all the way at different resorts as well. But I still remember my dad telling me, he goes, don't ever let anybody make you feel any different because you're Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Or don't let anybody look down on you because you're Hawaiian. And my mother was not even Hawaiian. Used to tell me the same thing too. Because nobody ever said anything about Chinese, but it always reflected back on being Hawaiian.
I see.
And my mom said, so both my parents always instilled that. And like I said, it wasn't until I was an adult, coming into my later 20s and into my 30s. And I said, it was afforded here. It was the knowledge was here to share.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things for me that's so important, because as my role here at the Four Seasons, and I'm the director of Hawaiian Programs here, and I actually started off as the cultural ambassador. And as the cultural ambassador, I put together all the different programs, the activities, from the lei making and the coconut weaving and the hula dancing and, printing with native plants and, all these different, and putting together like the garden tours and different things here that dealt with the culture. Moving forward, after we did all of that, I got promoted up to director of Hawaiian Programs. And what that brought on was all the extra things of sharing Hawaiian culture, teaching embark classes to new employees to kind of give them a sense of place here.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the learning continues. I don't think I'll ever say I know it all.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever a time, because there's so much to learn, and from all the different kumu and all the different people that have, our kupuna that have shared their ike with me, there's still so much to learn. And when I teach classes or I'm talking, and somebody asks me a question that I don't know, I love it.
Yeah.
Because that just feels that gives me the opportunity to continue my learning.
Yeah.
So keep on putting more into my ike, more knowledge, because I'm not getting any younger. Like I said, I'm going to be 62 years old, and but I come from a place now that over all these years, it needs to be shared. And the Four Seasons is giving me this opportunity by letting me put together different programs, by putting together and sharing what is May Day, what is, why do we celebrate King Kamehameha Day?
Yeah.
Why do we celebrate Pawahi? And all these different Hawaiian cultural events. We just got through with the festivals of Aloha.
Yeah.
And what I really loved about that was we had halal came out, our halals that are going out to Mary Monarch and some halals that are not, came together, and we said, if we put on a show like this with our halal here, and we brought up different groups, like we've had, this year we had Uhe Uhenen, and we've had Nahoa, we had Emi Hanaya Li'i, we had different groups come to play. It's all about the Hawaiian culture, about Hawaiian mele and hula. If this was to happen at the MAC, costs a lot of money. Right?
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to be an excuse for our kupunas to say, well, if two of us come, that's over $100. We cannot afford that. We got to be real. And so for me, it was the Four Seasons has afforded us to say, you know what, Auntie, we're not going to charge.
Wow.
And Festivals of Aloha with Darryl Fujiwara came in and he said, Auntie, let's put it on. Let's put on the Festivals of Aloha. We have a budget. Four Seasons said, yes, we're going to use our property. We're not going to charge anything. And for me, that was very important because, again, I didn't want that to be a point where people couldn't afford to come.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah.
So it was all our guests are here that can come and enjoy, again, sharing the Hawaiian culture. But it was open to the community.
Ah, that's so awesome.
And a lot of our halal that take the trek to Hilo for the Mary Monarch, so expensive, right?
Yeah.
To get there. And then the seats are limited. So a lot of our own Ohana never have a chance to come in and watch their kiki or their kids or their grandchildren perform.
Yeah.
But here, Four Seasons invite them all in. And everything we had over that 3 days, everything was free. And it was all about coming, enjoying our vendors, coming, enjoying our artisans. And our artisans are what? Our kupunas. Mm-hmm. And I would tell people, it's so important that our kupunas are here teaching about kukuhele po. We have the pohaku master on property. Wow. We have our kupuna who know all about kapala, that they know about stripping the ohe. Go sit with them, go ask them questions, because these are the ones that have learned these things generations in their family.
Yeah.
And they're here willing to share it with everybody. We had some of our managers who came from, one of our managers, our director, from England, came and took the kukuhele po and sat on that ground and was hitting the pohaku and everything, enjoying it and saying, wow, they really feel immersed within our culture, which for me is very important, because I always say, if we don't share, then we're being part of the problem. But the solution is education. Yeah. And I'm so, anytime I have a kupuna who's willing to share, we have kumus who are willing to share. Oh, I'm going to put it out there. Yeah. It's so important that all of that ike gets shared, because generations down, they're going to look back and go, oh, I remember this. Mm-hmm. I remember this when I was at the Four Seasons, or I remember this in general, because I do that now. Yeah. Because I reflect back on, where did I learn this from? And how wonderful that our kupunas, and I'm getting up there in age too now, so I keep saying that, as getting to be a kupuna, it's my turn now to share it as well.
And it goes back to the whole sense of place, right? Like letting the people visiting to have that sense of place here. You know, and we're just talking how Hawaii always draws people in. You know, there's something about, especially when you leave Hawaii for a long time, when I travel and go about doing my work stuff, is always this yearning for Hawaii, you know, of that hug, of that embrace that you just mentioned. And it's because it goes beyond monetary stuff, right? It's
Yes,
just, it's
very
that,
much so.
yeah, it's that soul, the essence that Hawaii offers people.
Yeah, so if we say we're sharing,
Yeah.
we really are sharing. It's not about, I'm going to be nice and I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. And in their mind, they're thinking, oh, well, I guess she's being nice because, you know, she like giving
Yeah,
tip.
exactly.
And then when they find out it's nothing to do with a tip, it really is us sharing the culture, sharing the Aloha spirit, that they get it. I think they really get it.
You know, you mentioned Aloha spirit. That's like one of the things I'm always interested in learning more about how people view it, because we hear it a lot, the Aloha spirit, and visitors hear it a lot. Can you explain from your perspective, what is the Aloha spirit?
You know, we talk about the word aloha.
Yeah.
And it is one of the major words. And I think it's in law or something that says that, you know, aloha it's an actual thing. And that's our word for it here in Hawaii. And I'm sure other cultures have their own word for it. But aloha is not just hello or goodbye.
Yeah.
We always greet with one another as aloha, or you see somebody go by, oh, aloha, take care, yeah? But if you know, aloha means so much more than that. You know, it's compassion, it's kindness, it's all these different words that embrace that. And when we say spirit, that's the ohana, that's what comes from inside. So when I look at sharing the Aloha spirit, it's sharing my mana, what I have in me, and being genuinely happy that whatever we're talking stories. Yeah. I'm genuinely happy that I get this time to share with you and sit down and talk story. I made a new friend today. Yeah. You know, and when we can do that with not only us as Hawaiians to one another, but us as Hawaiians to outsiders, anyone else who's interested. I do an embark class, and that's a class that we do with new employees. And a lot of our employees do come from outside of Hawaii, from the United States or you know, internationally. And one of the things I talk about is sharing the Aloha spirit when you're walking down the halls and greeting one another. Yeah. And I always say, but Auntie, I'm not Hawaiian. And I was saying, but it has nothing to do with you being Hawaiian. Yeah. It has to do with what you feel in here. Yeah. And that's in Hawaii, that's what we share. Yeah. I always love, again, going back and sharing my mom. I always tell them the story of my mom, who has pure Chinese, nothing to do with the Hawaiian culture, except she was immersed in it through my dad. And how wonderful that she never said, well, I'm not Hawaiian, so I'm not going to learn none of this. Because if she had said that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you today. Yeah. It's all because they shared the Aloha spirit, they shared the Hawaiian culture. And to me, that's the Aloha spirit. We share it. We share that uhane, we share it. To anybody who's interested in wanting to learn it.
Yeah, you shared about how that person who is like, Auntie, I'm not Hawaiian, like I can't do that. But I think that comes where the being genuine, you know, that whole being genuine when you're actually expressing like a hello, a simple hello, you know, and actually meaning it, or saying, how are you? Hope you have a good day, and actually having meaning behind those words that you're saying, because words carry power, right? So
yes, they do.
What you put out there has so much power, and it's all about receiving. What you put out there, you're going to receive right back, right? So it's, again, going back and understanding your uhana, where it's at. And one question I'll have for you is, if someone's trying to look for a sense of place, whether they're from Hawaii, not Hawaiian, but if they're looking for a sense of place and connection to themselves, like what kind of things would you help them with, or what kind of advice would you give them?
You know, one of the biggest things, and we're surrounded with it, with the ocean. I always tell them, you got to connect with the ocean. You got to get in. I try to explain what is hi'uvai, where you go and you cleanse yourself. Because, you know, there's times when you don't feel good, or you know, just being overworked or stressed out about anything that's going on. But going to the ocean, being in that pa'akai, kind of releases all of that. Yeah. They do, and they feel it. They really, people that I've told to go ahead and do that, kind of explain to them what it is. They go and do it, and they're like, I don't know what I just experienced. but they said they could only, that's something that they've only experienced here. Yeah. You know, and so I always say the ocean, meeting up and having conversations and opening yourself up to other people. One of the things that my husband and I, that's kept us here is because we met up with a lot of good people. Yeah. people who took us in because we weren't from Maui. My husband's not even Hawaiian, he's from Samoa, but same values, yeah. I think it's all the same values, and going back to the Aloha spirit and all of this kinds of stuff. It's all about how you treat people as well, that kindness, that compassion, being able to connect on a level that they know that if I need your help, I know you can come help.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I've asked for help, and they come, and they've came, and we've built relationships off of that. And then I've been asked, I need your help. Can you help kokua? And I've gone, and that's how you build the friendships. That's how you build ohana that's not blood ohana, but still considered ohana. And I think that's so Hawaiian.
Yeah, it is.
It's such a connection when you know that you can rely on the next person. And I always tell them, again, you don't only have to be Hawaiian, because I got a lot of good friends that's not Hawaiian at all. But they think Hawaiian. Mm-hmm. They love the culture, so they feel it in here. And I see it all the time. And so, we build relationships from that as well. And it's all part of sharing the culture and not thinking that, well, it's just exclusive. No. I was never taught that it was exclusive. I was always taught that you do and you share, like kahi'au. Kahi'au. To share without expecting anything in return. For me, that's so important, because I love doing sharing. I don't expect anything in return.
Yeah.
Except when I see how they take it and they start sharing it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. You just reminded me of all that stuff. This kind of went back to, I'm sitting in this room and I see the all the glass balls back here, and we talked so much about ohana today and sharing the culture and seeing these things that are in our everyday life, but finding some of those connections to that. Like something that I took for granted was my grandfather taught me how to make the nets for the glass balls, because he was a diver.
That's awesome.
So I remember I grew up, and he had this all in his house with all these glass balls all over his ceilings, just hanging, like hundreds that he collected as being a diver, out in Barbers Point area.
Yeah.
And so on Oahu. And so then he would have it in his house, and I would make the nets and everything. And I haven't made it in a long time. And finally, one of my brothers was like, Dad, remember you used to make the nets when you were young? I was like, yeah. He's like, can you still make it? I was like, I don't even know. He's like, oh, I have a glass ball. Like, I need a net. I said, I'll try it out. So sure enough, I just kind of went back into it. It was just like riding a bike. I haven't done it for years, maybe over 20 years. My grandfather passed away 20 years ago.
And would it be, don't you think back, oh my God, he would be so proud to know that what he taught you has continued.
Yeah.
And then now it's your kuleana.
Yeah.
To make sure your keiki and whoever else that you feel wants to learn or immerse themselves in that you pass that on.
Yeah.
Because that's wonderful that you have that.
And it goes back to just sharing the culture, because it is something to be celebrated, because there's so much to the culture to share, and there's so much meaning and power behind the stuff that we do, the weaving, the symbolism behind the weaving. I remember going down to the beach to scrub the ipu, the gourds and everything with my mom. And mom would be like, hey, you missed a spot. Go back down to the beach and get the sand and scrub it and everything. And my dad would be over there cutting the holes in the ipu to make ipu hekes and everything. And I remember just kind of taking that for granted, but then this not too long again, going back, like, you could probably make it again, because this was part of who you were. It's in your hands already. It's in your uhani. It's in your spirit.
Right.
And I think that is something that is just so powerful, to have that sense of place and self. I think that's a big thing. We're talking about the Four Seasons, and you've been part of the industry for a long time, right? So how long have you been in the...
I've been in the industry over 30 years.
30 years.
I've been here at the Four Seasons going on 14 years.
And what have you seen changes within those time? Like, has it?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, what kind of changes have you experienced through that?
When I first started here, it was just beautiful beaches and different tourist attractions.
Yeah.
And then of course the luau show, which I think is maybe the closest thing that they have their idea of what Hawaii was all about.
Yeah.
It was just coming to paradise. But and I say this now. There's a lot of places that have beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that have beautiful resorts. But what we have here now is the Aloha spirit and the Hawaiian culture. Why? it was and I can only speak for myself because this is what I've experienced here at the Four Seasons, was that as your general managers or as your executive teams come on and they see what's happening within the resorts, we just had one that said, hey, you know what? He got himself involved in the culture and he loved it. Mm-hmm. He said, why are we doing this? Why are we sharing this? I was just here at the right time, right place at the right time, because I am the very first one.
Yeah.
But I think when we talked about it, and when I first started here, I was started off as a concierge. And as a concierge, I tried to share as much of my knowledge as I could with the guest. And it was all about being authentic. And I always said that, don't ask me a question that you guys don't want, that you guys might not know or not want what I'm going to say back.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to do what's pretty. I'm going to say and I'm going to do what is authentic and what is right within the culture. And I think from that, it was appreciated that I wasn't talking or, saying things because I think this is what you want to hear.
Sounds good.
Yeah, because there were some things that I did say that, they were like, wow.
Okay.
But it was a truth.
Yeah.
And I always say, I always check my facts as well. If I'm putting out something out there, I always check my facts. And that's why I always say I got great kumu, good resources. And so I always said I'm going to come from a place of authenticity. And from that, when we put it out there with the guest, and we the Four Seasons has always, this I must say, they've always empowered their employees to take that lead if they need to with the guests, to always come from a place of authenticity as well. And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked because people started feeling it. I see this all the time when not only the guests, but our employees who don't come from here are like, wow. I always get those type of reactions, and I didn't know that. And that's why I keep on saying there's so much more to learn in the Hawaiian culture, whether we're researching or reflecting back on our own experiences, that we share all of these things. And now we're at a point where my management team, our executive team, and our general manager and our resort manager, they all come from a point of the Hawaiian culture now.
Nice.
And they love it. Our resort manager now is actually from Hawaii Island.
Oh, wow.
And so he's grown up with a lot of the same values. And so he's been that extra person in here now. Like, say, okay, come on, Auntie, what we going to do next?
Yeah.
And it's worked because it is all about the sharing. And like I said, I think I mentioned this before, you have to be part of that solution. Cannot complain otherwise. Yeah, if you can complain, then you got to be, what's the solution?
Yeah.
And what we found is the solution is education. And so we're educating people on the Hawaiian culture. We're sharing it. We're living it. Being the examples for people to see. And again, not only for our guests, but for people in the community as well.
Right.
And for employees. So basically for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just important to share. And I'm so fortunate that I have been afforded this position to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, now we're in next year is going to be our third annual. We're working on these third annuals, and we've done the May days and the Kameme days. And I said, pretty soon I'm going to retire. If I was in my 30s and 40s, oh yeah, I got plenty more years to go. But, Auntie's heading off into my 60s now. And I said, I want to enjoy. My husband's already retired. And I want to kind of enjoy too. So, it's all about teaching the next generations down.
Yeah.
So I do have assistants that come with a lot of background as well. Putting them into this, showing them, because I have the I would say maybe the corporate side of the tourism industry. Mm-hmm. They're still learning, they're in their 30s, they're learning, they've got their Hawaiian side pretty much down with the language and everything as well. But putting those two together in the corporate world, being here with the Four Seasons, that we are looking ahead, we're looking into the future, and Four Seasons will always have the Hawaiian culture and the Hawaiian spirit to share with everyone who walks through our doors and everyone in the community.
And that's kind of going back to what you mentioned, right? Like about having that kuleana to pass down what you know to the next generation, so then they can always remember those lessons that they learned from others, from kupuna, from kumu and everything. We talk about the visitors, when visitors come to you and they talk stories with you and just kind of learn from you, and they leave, go back home wherever they came from. What is one thing that you hope they take with them?
Really the appreciation of the Hawaiian culture and how it was shared with them.
Yeah.
I think because they can look it up on Google. You can go to these Googles, you can look up all these books and you can read it. But I don't think you can feel it until you come and experience it. And not only from me, from all our employees. I think even just being out in the community and meeting that bus driver that just took them on their tour.
Yeah.
That just shared with them this whole area about on the road to Ohana. I think when they come here, they get to experience that feeling because they met with people from the islands. They met people who love the Hawaiian culture. We live the Hawaiian culture, and it was shared. And so now when they go back to look, this is what I went and researched before I came to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I went on that Google and I went pull up all this information about this. That doesn't compare to being here and experiencing it from other people.
No, I totally get that too, because one thing that whenever I speak with people who want to learn about the culture, or just kind of talk stories, that's always that thing that you just mentioned right there, the appreciation. Just that they're open for us to share, because you can come across people who aren't that open for the culture or just to hear the stories and everything. But I think just having that sense of knowing that they genuinely appreciate your story, your culture, your background, the history, because they want to learn. They want to be part of it as well because they see the beauty that's here. Mm-hmm. I think that is such an important thing for people to understand.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of our guests that stay here with us at the Four Seasons have been coming for years, and they really embrace the culture. And I see it in how they interact with the employees and everything.
I think that education part is so important because, people come from different places. People experience different things. People grow up differently and everything. So I think having that, I think you just nailed it again, right? Like having an education and that appreciation for that education. Because I always talk about like when people come to our islands and everything, it's like you're coming to our home. Even though once you step off the plane or whatever you're coming from, like once you step on the land, like or go into the ocean, like you're in our home. So how you behave within our home has to be a pono, and it's not just for the visitors, it's for everybody around us, to act in a pono way, act with that aloha, and try to be, like a little bit of have the kahiao mentality too, right? Mm-hmm. So, I just want to appreciate you for sharing your time with me and just talking stories,
Yeah,
because
it's so important. I think one of the biggest things was COVID really put a big loop into everything. And for us over here, it was all about, well, if our guests are not going to go out, then what can we do here to share it again? It's hard to pick and choose what we want to do. But I think for us, we try to get creative. And I always say that everything that I do here is not me, because everybody goes, thank you so much, Auntie. Yeah. No, it's not just me. We have a wonderful team, and it really is a team with everyone that I work with here at the Four Seasons. And coming out of COVID really proved that in everything that we do, that even for me, when we thought about, the luau shows is what people go to. And we always say, when we teach the hula classes, we always ask, what's your interpretation of a hula dancer? And we get anything from, the beautiful cellophane skirts and the coconut bras. And from that, I was like, oh my gosh, they really don't know.
Yeah.
And so when we teach the hula here, we don't just teach it, we go over how we learn it. And one of the biggest things that we do is we brought here what's called behind the scenes of hula.
Oh, wow.
And I talked to Kumu Kamaka Kukona, and I said, Kumu, we really need to bring something that's authentic. What can we do? We kind of collaborated, and he said, you know what, Auntie, why don't we bring one of our practices?
Oh, wow.
And from that, it was born behind the scenes of hula. What we do is the halal comes out, and we don't come with the flowers in our hair. We come out in our halal uniform, which is our t-shirt and our pa'u skirts. And the first half hour is just all with the ipuheke, calling out all the different moves,
Yeah.
everything. And what you see on the girls is the sweat. And you see the glistening and the shirts getting all wet and things like that. Because why? Because they're focused.
Yeah.
I say hula dancers are very disciplined. And that's what the guests get to see now. Not only guests, but anybody in the community can come out and watch this. And what it is you should know this. If you go up to a halau, oh, excuse me, can I come in to watch? It's aole. You cannot come in to watch. But what we did was, Kumu brought it. We brought it here. And you get to see, and then you get to see the kumu teach. So it's a stop and go. Okay, do it again. Your hand's wrong, and he does his scoldings as he needs to, as he would do it in halau. Yeah. And the only thing I was joking with, I said, "Kumu, don't forget, no F-bombs now." And and we crack up because that's just that's hula life. Yeah, it's what it is. But people come and they see this, and they're like totally blown away. And then when we teach the hula classes, we teach the same way, where you explain what you're doing, you explain why your motion is here. And at the end, I ask the question again. So what is your interpretation of a hula dancer? Yeah. And how different now their answer is. They go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was like this. Then they'll go out and they go to the luau show, or they go and watch the hula dancer in the lounge, and they're like, oh my gosh, I get it.
Yeah.
They get it. And again, that's just another one way of sharing the culture, and how wonderful that the Four Seasons is affording this to everyone.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Auntie, as we come to the close of this, is there any last, you shared so much manao and advice already. Where's any last takes that you want to share with our listeners out there for the podcast, and that you want to leave with them,
I never thought I would be sitting here doing a podcast, but how wonderful, because and I want to mahalo you,
thank you.
Because as we're doing this is exactly what we've been talking about, is that I don't know who's listening to this. I don't know how far away this will go, or who's listening out there. But if there's anything that they can take away from our conversation, and I'm sure people are going, oh my gosh, I remember that. We're bringing back all these childhood memories for them as well. For me, oh my gosh, that feels so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the takeaway for me is mahaloing you for giving me this opportunity to share, and for other people who are listening to take away whatever they can from this. And to share it as well, and reflect back on their childhood memories, because I'm even thinking of some other things, that I haven't thought about in years. But how wonderful. And I think that's our connection with the culture, being Hawaiian. And again, for those of you who are not Hawaiian, but you have that aloha spirit, you love the culture, right on.
Yeah.
Right on, because I'm going to tell you, that all comes back from my mom, from my mom and my dad, who just instilled as me as a child that don't ever be ashamed of who you are. And you go, keep learning, and now sharing. So thank you, mahalo nui, for giving me this opportunity to sit and kuka talk stories and feel comfortable.
No, that's good. That's
in the conversation.
Glad you feel comfortable, Auntie.
Yeah.
Just for, if can I just ask you to just kind of close it off with the pule or oli, just to send us off? Is that possible?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that I love doing, and I've learned this in both of my halau that I have been in, and the oli is kele maila. And kele maila is one that you do when you're giving something to somebody. And so, if I can, I'd love to share that. Okay, and so my kuma's gonna say, okay, Auntie. Sit a little bit more.
Yeah.
Kele I maila o kaula I ke kahi ea, ke malama oni I hau ua malihi ea, a mali e ua pa, ke ingu mahila. Ke ingu mahila na hala ho no we I ke kai. No na we ka hala, no puna he ka wahine, no ka lua no I kila we. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Auntie, for that. Aloha.
Aloha.